Welcome back to TMI with Terrell and Martha, and we're so glad to have you with us. We want you to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are dealing with, and I don't know if you are, we are dealing with this post-holiday epizooty, is what my father-in-law calls it. And we're going to talk a little bit about you got through the holidays, now you got to get through January, and we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and you know what? It is the subject of conversation
Everywhere.
Almost anywhere I go, right? Because if you aren't sick yourself by January, if not in December, and then you're a lucky rare one, or you at least know someone who's ill, because there is almost no getting around it. You know, it's like, okay, holidays come, you got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, everybody's coming together, the kids are getting out of school with their little bag of bugs that they come to the holiday gatherings with, right? From their school. And next thing you know, we're giving out gifts and love and affection, and we're giving out the flu virus or COVID or RSV. So everybody starts dealing with some sort of, I would say, cold, flu, or respiratory infection of some sort. I know I'm probably sounding a little stuffy because I am. I was down 3 days last week and could not get out of bed. So that's very rare for me. How are you?
Well, it doesn't help with the weather changes that are happening. You know, you go from it's warm. I mean, my dog is shedding like it's spring and it's getting ready to be, freezing cold again.
Yeah.
I had to pull out the fur vac because she was shedding like, I said, wait a minute,
What's
this
going
is
on?
the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Why is she shedding? So the weather's been crazy. And I just don't push through as well as I used to,
Right.
And I think that, of course, 5 years ago, COVID, everybody stayed home. If they were sick, they didn't get together. How many Christmases got canceled?
Yeah.
Now I think we're kind of jumping away from that. We're saying, oh, come. It doesn't matter if you're sick. Come. We'll get it there.
Put our game face back on.
Put our game face back on, the day quill, the night quill, all that stuff. But it is very persistent respiratory things.
Yeah,
and I tell you, I'm dealing with it too. I wasn't flu,
Right.
wasn't COVID, didn't have the RSV test, but my father-in-law had it first.
Right.
Then my husband had it. And I really thought I had dodged the bullet, because
Right. When
I
you think you've got
Yes.
it covered. Yeah.
And I guess I just have a slower system than they do, because then I started feeling like really terrible. And the worst day was about 3 days ago from taping this, and I know I'm getting better,
Right.
but it's just taking longer.
Well, right when you start getting better and your body's like, dun, 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 it goes, pulls you right back,
yes.
like, nope, and
So
down you go.
So tell me kind of what I do are the kind of basic things. I don't immediately, now, again, it's not fair. I have a primary care doctor in my house. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
cheating.
can get a little bit of help there, but I don't try to use him for every little
Right,
thing,
right.
So I have, like a ester C that I put in my water. If I
Right.
start to feel scratchy, I'll dose myself up with vitamin C. I use some elderberry, I do some things like that. I make sure I'm drinking a lot of water, because when you start to feel bad like this,
Yeah.
you start
Hydrate,
not wanting to
hydrate,
drink. Hydrate. And you actually need more,
A lot more.
because when you start taking those things to dry you up, whether it's over the counter like Dayquil,
Right.
or it's, something a little stronger, it dries your whole body up. Okay. It doesn't
Right.
just dry the little part up here, it dries your whole body up. So got to drink a lot of water. You got to stay hydrated. You got to sleep. That's the other part about the holidays. You're pushing through and you're not sleeping.
Well, you've brought your immune system down
Yes.
just by trying to get through the holidays, right? You got to, either you're traveling to other places, you're going with your kids, or you're going to see your grandkids, or, that's a lot. And flying in and of itself taxes the immune system. So any kind of travel via plane, train, automobile is not the same, but flying definitely causes a physiological change in the body. And so the body adapts as you're up in the tin can, up in the air, and it does tend to, that's why you're not really getting sick because of the plane, the plane itself. People are like, oh, but it's more because your body is adapted and it's lowered the immune system.
Well, and I think we took a 3-day trip to New Orleans over the holidays to go to the World War II Museum, and it was a wonderful trip. But that's where Lynn thinks he got his was
Airport.
in that airport in that trip, because people are touching everything.
close
People
quarters.
are doing. I mean, let's be honest here. Okay, we stopped washing our hands about 3 days into COVID. Okay, and so, and I know some of you are denying it. Okay, as you're watching this, but it's, the 20-second washing your hands and all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
You're supposed to
and
sing
putting
happy
on the
birthday or
stuff.
something. I
Yeah,
don't
putting
know.
all the stuff on. You're not doing that. I still have some old masks in my glove box, but I don't wear a mask anywhere.
Right.
When I'm going somewhere. If I do wear a mask, like if we went to Europe a couple of years ago, and Lynn actually had a pretty bad cough, but he developed it while we were gone.
Right.
We got a major N95 mask because he says people don't want to. I know it's nothing.
Well, N95s are really the only ones that
Yes.
do the trick when it comes to filtering.
So we got through the holidays. We're exhausted. I still have one set of packages to pick up from one of my my sons dropped off. For some reason, my son thought getting the packages delivered like an hour and a half away from me would make it easier.
Yikes.
Even though, it's just like so crazy. So,
Yeah.
So he says, oh, well, it's like, I think he just thinks that Watkinsville is right next door
Eek.
to us.
Oh my gosh.
And so
That's
we're going
funny.
to get them this weekend, which is fine. And we've got a couple of gifts to give to my son because we had already been there for Christmas. He
Right.
delivered them after Christmas, which was fine. It's all good. But I was like, what were you thinking? Okay. It's just like,
That's
he's
not
like
easy.
he's like the smartest kid in my family, but on basic day-to-day things, he has some issues, So we get together and the kids are sick and they're getting back to school. So they're getting sick again because they're back together again. And their schedules got all out of whack. They're sleeping late, which I actually loved it when my children started sleeping late. I don't know why parents think that's bad. I think it's a great thing.
If you're an earlier riser, then that's buying you some time.
Yeah.
Kid-free time. You can't pay enough for kid-free time.
That's right. So what are your go-tos? Because I know you study this a lot and you don't want to always be going to the doctor about everything.
Right. And there's a lot of times that as much as the doctors want to help you, there's not a lot they can do.
It's got to run its course.
But a lot of them feel like they get pressured into providing a solution. So they will often give you that shot because it's not going to hurt you, but it won't necessarily help you. But so many people are so insistent on being treated, in the doctor's office that a lot of times they'll give you a steroid. They'll give you the shot. I am very different than that. I work very, I try to stay as far away from doctor's offices if I can. Now, if I were married to one, it'd be a little harder, but it's also great because you've got that education, that information coming at you right from close quarters, right? But for me, like the option was there for me to take a Dayquil just so that I could function. But if I was just going to harbor myself in the house for a little while, right, which is what I was doing, I didn't, if I had to go out, it would be a little different. But I didn't. I took 3 days. Actually, I was gone a whole week from work, but I was physically incapable of going anywhere. So I stayed in bed for 2 days. I chose not to take anything to dry myself up because I think that slows down the body's natural process in general. Where it's trying to heal, right? So it slows down the ability for your body to get to the root cause and really get there because you're drying everything up. You're kind of short-circuiting the natural immune system response. So, I let it run its course, but I drank a lot of water, a lot of lemon water. I was also, I guess you'll find too that your body, when you're shut down like that and you're in the bed, you're not gonna have bowel movements either. You're just, so I was sending my husband to go get prune juice. It's like, God, I feel like one of those 90-year-olds drinking her prune juice. But I made sure to drink some prune juice. I drank tons of water. I literally had I had a friend make me chicken soup and it was amazing. I didn't put anything too harsh in my gut, right? So if you're distracting the body and putting a lot of food in your stomach, not a good idea, right? So real, gentle foods on the stomach. Also, I slept a lot. Sleeping is a good plan. So I slept a lot. You probably get headaches if you get this particular thing. I did take ibuprofen, I think, at one point, because I'm just a wuss when it comes to headaches. I hate headaches. That's just, to me, like the worst.
Well, and I think a lot of, for me, was the hot and cold and allergies more than any, because it wasn't COVID, it wasn't flu.
Right,
we tested
right.
for all the things.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Mike Maloney, he's an old friend of mine who's an allergist here in town. He says, well, you know, Martha, he says, you get these kind of things, and if I do something for you, it'll last 10 days. And if I don't do anything for you, it'll last 10 days.
That's exactly right. Like they know the body has to do it. And right now where we are, you know, viruses are pretty much going to run their course, right? And that's why we got a little skeptical with the COVID vaccinations and stuff, because we knew it was a virus. But
and antibiotics don't work on viruses.
No.
Yeah.
But, you know, viruses can turn into other things that are dangerous. So, you know, I'm not saying no medical care at all. I think there's a proper place to throw yourself into you know, ear infections come from blocked sinuses. You know, you can get pneumonia if you have too much.
Well, and I had the pneumonic effusion back 5 years ago. And so I called up my doctor, my primary care doctor, and I said, look, am I being irrational that I would like to come in and get you to do a chest x-ray just to be sure that that's not brewing? He goes, no, I don't think that's irrational at all. Let's go and check it, because if it's turning into pneumonia, we want to catch it. And pneumonia will respond to antibiotics.
Yes, it will.
So we want to catch that before it becomes anything. That's right. So all we're saying to you, because I know a lot of people have angst about going to the doctor at this time of year, going through everything. I had a wonderful discussion on the Martha Zoller show with Matt Hanley, who's the new CEO of Northeast Georgia Health Systems.
I heard some of that.
And he, you know, they're they're busy right now. Oh, they're really busy.
This is some of the highest numbers they've seen here and nationwide for the flu. There's been a 16-year-old died from the flu. Well, there have been people dying from the flu.
Well, and the vaccine, every year people die from the flu.
But it's just like
the vaccine wasn't right this year.
It didn't hit the mark.
Yeah, it didn't hit the
mark.
mark.
And that's one of the challenges that they have in making the flu vaccine. Everybody knows that. I've honestly never had a flu vaccine, but I've never had the flu. But what I had this time, I had no fever. You know, and all the research was showing that I probably had an RSV virus, a type of virus. But, you know, and it made sense because my grandson gave it to me, and the kids pass that around pretty effectively. But I will say what I just did today, actually before the show, is I went and had if you find anyone that does lymphatic drainage, we have a massage therapist at the spa that does sinus lymphatic drainage and sinus massage. She uses hot towels, eucalyptus, and then cold stones. And she did that just prior to me coming on this show. And I think I sound a lot better right now just trying to have a conversation than I did prior to coming. You know, she did cause it to kind of, before I got here, I was uncertain if I was going to make it, because I was literally having coughing attacks right after the session, which told me that what she did was working. And I can already feel my head clearing up a little bit. It's still there, but those kind of things. Go get magnesium salt bath. So I did a couple of nice hot soaks with magnesium salt. So it was magnesium flakes and baking soda. And what that does is it pushes you in some magnesium that helps your body to heal. And the baking soda does a pH balance in your body for you. So I did a couple of those as well when I was at home trying to manage this.
I agree that sleep is the best medicine. Being able to do that, that's what allows your body to heal. And look, you're going to still go see your grandkids. You're still going to have people coming and going over the holidays. I've already had 2 of my kids say they're going to come for next year for Christmas, because we had kind of a scattered Christmas.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to know. And they're going to try to get on a more regular schedule. But again, I won't hold my breath on that, because it's a busy world. And I love the thought.
Yeah.
I love the thought because the idea of of planning one, I don't want to say one last, that sounds so final, but a big Christmas, because I do have a big family that lives in different places.
Yeah. And you have a place that can accommodate them.
I can. And what I would love to do is, like, I know it's dramatic to say one more time before you die. I don't mean that. But it's like, I'd like to have everybody together, go to church together one time. One time.
Yeah.
I'm very flexible about this person comes on this day and this person, the more the merrier.
But the whole crew going right in.
Yeah, I was supposed to have this nice quiet weekend over King Weekend, and now it looks like it's going to be super busy with people coming and going. But you know what? That's okay. Yeah. That's what works with their schedule. Yeah. We'll make it work, one way or another. I called my niece who has the little baby. I said, okay, so there's going to be some people coming and going. Are you okay with that?
That's smart.
Because it's a new, a 6-month-old baby.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing we all have to think about as we're dealing with our common colds, the flus, the coughs. We've got to think about other people. And I know a lot of people hate to call in sick for work, but if you're sick, call in sick.
Yeah.
Don't take that into your workplace, because that's the thing that really causes more trouble. Is if you're sick, stay home. And if somebody gets in trouble because they've called in sick. I mean, I know Tara, our producer here, probably worked double shifts multiple days in a row at our business because the spa has people coming in and out all the time. And it's very kind of close quarters in certain areas. And we had man down. People were just right after the holidays getting sick, one after the other.
And I think too, employers, especially when you are somebody that has kids, employers need to be a little more flexible.
Yes.
And not force their employees to lie about taking a sick day when their kid is sick.
No.
Because it ought to be, as long as you're getting your job done. Yeah. I know that employers have to be, they have to have rules. They don't want people to take advantage. But I think you can make judgments at times like this.
I agree.
They're not making it up. Okay, they're not making it up this time of year. There's people sick everywhere.
It's out there.
Yeah, it's just out there.
Yeah. And I think
it's
people
holiday
come
related.
in because they're afraid. I think a lot of times they'll come in sick because they're afraid to get, fired, or they'll bring their
kid.
They
don't think it's that bad. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. That whole, I'm not sick. My kids sent me a video, and it was really funny because they were making jokes about the fact that I usually always say, I'm not sick. I think that's just an allergy. I don't know what that is. I'm not sick. I say that all the time because God forbid I get sick. Like, I really don't go down. So they sent me this really funny video of this woman doing she's like, her nose is red. She doesn't feel good. I'm not sick. And, I sounded like an 80-year-old smoker at one point. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm sick. Am I sick? I don't have a fever. But no, I was sick.
But I think keeping up your hydration, keeping up your diet, eating, a balanced diet where you can. I know you're not as hungry when you're not feeling good.
But you got to put
you got to have the fuel in there to be able to make it better.
Bone broth is really good. Scrambled eggs, which we've talked about, the egg that is not the villain. That's a good one to eat when you're sick. Stuff that is softer on you. Don't go eating a lot of salads and stuff like that, because that's harder for your digestion. And your body's trying to heal itself. So anything you can do that comforts the body and gives it, eat some comfort food, for heaven's sake. Mac and cheese. Eat your mac and cheese then. Your body needs the glucose when you're fighting. So you know what? I had a lot. I had in the mornings avocado toast with 2 eggs. I had a fresh loaf of sourdough bread.
You ate half of it. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then the avocado, and then a couple of eggs. And that is a great start. That's a great start to the day in general. But when you're sick, you've got the sourdough that's giving you the carbs, you've got the fats, you've got the protein, and it's very good for breakfast. So
what do you recommend about exercise when you're not feeling well?
I feel like, okay, I've got to say, I've got things to say.
Because I know that's your thing. Yeah.
So I think that movement is important, but if your body's telling you to sleep, you sleep, right? But if you get up, if you can go, like what I actually did was I would go stand on my vibe plate, right? And that vibe plate at least moved my lymph around. Or I get on the treadmill and just take a little walk. I even was on the treadmill in my slippers. If somebody had come in, I had the house to myself so nobody could see me. But I got on my treadmill in my slippers on purpose because I am very competitive, right? And I have the treadmill that has the trainer there. So if the trainer's huffing and puffing, I usually try to keep up with the trainer.
Right.
But
I don't have that feeling at all. I don't like to sweat.
Put
That's
my slippers on.
Yeah.
So all I could do was just like kind of trudge. I have also a pool. I swam. It was warm. I could get in the pool a little bit. And then the far infrared sauna, as long as you're not running a fever, you never want to add heat to heat. So if your body's naturally running a fever, do not get in a sauna. That is a horrible thing to do. Your body's already heating up on purpose. But the cool thing about a far infrared sauna is that it will heat your core temperature up and create a faux fever response, right? And what fevers do is they cause the white blood cells to go after the invader, the pathogen. So the fevers kind of call out the white blood cells and create the army to go after the pathogens. Well, if you're not having a fever, if it's something like we've dealt with, you can get in a sauna for about 20 minutes and just increase that core temperature, break that sweat, and then go shower off, go back in bed. And that's if you do have a sauna. A lot of people have them now. That's a big deal. Use that only when you don't have a fever. And I'm being very serious about that. That's never a good thing. But that, I think, cut the time that I could have been completely down. But even with all the wonderful tools and all the things and the spa and, my own natural line of remedies that we have at our fingers, right? The body's going to do what it's going to do in so many ways. The vitamin C is good. What you were doing, the elderberry is very good to take when you're down.
So when is the line for you where you go, okay, this has gone far enough. I need to do something
that's
more?
A very, very good question. I think that I was humbled last year by allowing that line to go too long. And so I always feel like I can handle things. And last year,
we do that. Women do that.
Yeah. And so last year I let what I thought was just a cold move into an ear infection, which I still would not agree with anyone that I might have an ear infection, although all the signs were there. I was even getting a little dizzy, when you get that inner ear inflammation and fluid. And so I'm thinking I just need to go get my ear cleaned out. I got a little wax in there. Let me go to the doctor. And the doctor looked at me and he was like, "What are you doing? You've got a pretty good ear infection going there." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
So my advice is if your sinuses stay, like with this particular bug we are dealing with, it does tend to linger. So if it lingers for, longer than I'd say a week or two, you are very likely looking at some sort of sinus infection or ear infection. So then I would say, get to the doctor, let them check it, and let's make sure we don't need to put you on some antibiotics, because antibiotics will kill that. And, you don't want to mess with infections in your head anyway, right? That's a big no-no. And then if your body starts running a pretty good fever, it's telling you, don't just take the ibuprofen and go back to bed. It's telling you got a problem.
Yeah. So just sleep, fluids, do all that kind of stuff. Hope this kind of helped you get through this this area that we've got after the holidays. I mean, it's been a tough January. I got to tell you that.
January, yeah.
But we're going to be back with you talking about a lot of different topics. We'd love for you to like and subscribe and be a part of this journey that we're on. And tell us topics you'd like to talk about, because we would love to hear about them.
Yeah, we're all about everything wellness. And wellness can be mental health. It can be spiritual health. It can be your body, your weight. We've got some really neat people lined up in 2026 to come be on the show with us, because Martha and I, we love what we do, and we truly believe that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.